50 Cent and the game were tight once, dropping bangers and looking like they were about to run the rap game together. But things flipped fast. The friendship turned into a full-blown war with diss tracks, fists flying, and even bullets. Here's how it all went down. Back in 2003, Game got introduced to 50 through Dr. Dre. The year before, Eminem had discovered 50 after hearing his mixtape Guess Who's Back, and flew him out to LA to meet Dre. That led to a massive $1 million deal with Shady and Aftermath. Around the same time, Dre came across the Game's early mixtapes and signed him to Aftermath in 2003 too. Meanwhile, 50 and his crew G-Unit were already making serious noise with their No Mercy, No Fear mixtape. So Dre had a wild idea. Throw Game into G-Unit. The plan? Use G-Unit's fame to build Game's buzz and bring a West Coast vibe to the squad. It sounded like a genius move. Dre started bringing Game into the studio with 50 while he was working on Get Rich or Die Tryin'. At first, it all clicked. Game even showed up in the In Da Club music video, and things looked solid, but nobody saw the storm that was brewing behind the scenes. Years later, Game's manager Whack 100 claimed Game helped write some of 50's early hits like What Up Gangsta. But 50 shut that down and said he actually wrote parts of Game's biggest tracks. Truth is, back then they were all in the studio helping each other out, so who wrote what is still a mystery. 50's Get Rich or Die Tryin' blew up, selling over 870,000 copies in its first week. It later went 9x platinum and is still considered one of the greatest rap albums ever. G-Unit followed up with Beg for Mercy that same year, but Game wasn't on it. He joined the crew after they finished recording. Still, Game boosted his profile by showing up in G-Unit videos and dropping features on their mixtapes. Meanwhile, he was cooking up his own debut, the documentary. Both 50 and Dr. Dre played major roles in it. When it dropped in 2005, it went crazy. The album sold 586,000 copies first week and featured huge singles with 50 like Hate It or Love It, How We Do, and West Side Story. It might not have matched 50's debut in sales, but it officially crowned Game as the new king of the West Coast. The documentary was a major win for Aftermath, but nobody expected it to be Game's only album with the label. Behind the scenes, things were already getting messy between him and 50, and the drama started before the album even dropped. Even though 50 helped launch Game's career, he didn't like the spotlight being shared. He was the G-Unit boss, but Game was rising fast and knew he had star power too. They had crazy chemistry in the studio, but their egos clashed hard, and it became clear one of them had to go. The tension really hit while they were working on the documentary. 50's second album, The Massacre, had to be delayed just so Game's project could drop first. That didn't sit right with 50. On top of that, Hate It or Love It almost ended up on The Massacre. 50 wrote the hook and his verse, which was most of the track. But it landed on Game's album instead, and that move had 50 heated. Things went public quick. Fans even pointed out the music video for Hate It or Love It, with Game driving and 50 rapping in the back seat, as a subtle sign of their power struggle. And according to rumors, that scene wasn't just a coincidence. That Hate It or Love It video moment? Yeah, it was no accident. 50 straight up refused to sit next to Game since he was the one driving. And things only got worse behind the scenes. 50 started clashing with Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine too. He was frustrated that he didn't have full creative control and couldn't drop music whenever he wanted. On top of that, 50 felt like he was the top dog, but the label was putting all their energy into pushing Game instead. Then street politics came crashing in, and that was the final nail in the coffin. According to Tony Yayo in a DJ Vlad interview, the real tension kicked off because of a man named Jimmy Henchman. Henchman wasn't just a big name in the music game. He was also deep in the streets. He ran a management company, Zara Entertainment, which handled artists like Sean Kingston, Gucci Mane, and The Game. But he also had serious beef with G-Unit. That drama exploded years later when Henchman was convicted of ordering a hit on G-Unit affiliate Lowell Lodi Mac Fletcher in 2009. He's now serving life. Before that, his issues with G-Unit reportedly started over their tight bond with another powerful music exec, Chris Lighty. Chris Lighty ran a powerhouse management company and worked with hip-hop giants like 50 Cent, Nas, LL Cool J, and Diddy. According to Tony Yayo, Jimmy Henchman envied Chris and wanted his level of influence. But Henchman was more of a street guy trying to clean up his image. Chris had major industry pull, and G-Unit stayed loyal to him. That loyalty sparked serious tension with Henchman, and since Game was signed under Henchman's company, it put him right in the middle of the mess, straining his ties with G-Unit. Meanwhile, 50 was already knee-deep in his war with Ja Rule, and he started going after anyone who rocked with Ja. That included Nas, Fat Joe, and Jadakiss. Fat Joe and Jadakiss linked up with Ja Rule on the track New York in 2004, and 50 wasn't having it. He fired back with his diss track Piggy Bank, throwing shots at both of them. He rapped, "I got 100 guns, 100 clips. Why I don't hear no shots? That fat dude thought Lean Back was Inda Club." The line hit hard, and just like that, 50 had beef with half the rap game. On Piggy Bank, 50 went off, taking shots at Jadakiss, Mobb Deep, Fat Joe, and even Nas and Kellis. He rapped, "My shit sold 11 mil, his was a dud. And yo ass is local," throwing shade at New York rappers who didn't rock with him. Even Nas got dissed. Kelly said her milkshake bring all the boys to the yard, then Nas went and tattooed her on his arm. 50 was on war mode. At first, Game backed 50 and dissed Ja Rule. But when 50 started beefing with legends like Nas, Fat Joe, and Jada, Game wasn't down. He looked up to them and didn't want to start problems for no reason. 50 expected loyalty. Ride with him or get out. But Game had his own path and didn't want to burn bridges with icons. It all exploded when Game went on Hot 97 and said he wasn't picking fights with rappers he respected. Just days later, 50 fired back on the same station, kicking Game out of G-Unit and telling him to stop repping the crew. 50 claimed he saved Game's career, saying his help on the documentary kept Game from getting dropped by Aftermath and that Game owed him everything.
Well, the truth was, as I grew up, I came up in my teenage years on Nas. So I couldn't beef with Nas. I didn't have no beef with Nas. And even though I usually get down with whatever's going on, I just wasn't down with beefing with niggas that shaped my career and made me want to rap. I couldn't do it.
While 50 was still at Hot 97, Game's crew pulled up to confront him, but security stepped in. A fight broke out, and one of Game's affiliates, Kevin Reed, got shot in the leg by a guard. Meanwhile, 50 and G-Unit slipped out the back. Even with the beef turning violent, they tried to cool things off. Just weeks later, 50 and Game hit the stage together in Harlem, shook hands, and told the crowd they had squashed the drama. Game even dropped a statement saying, "50 and I are proving that real problems can be solved. Real talk." But that peace didn't last. Within weeks, it all fell apart again. G-Unit started trashing Game's street cred and made it clear he was out for good and wouldn't be on any future mixtapes. Game wasn't feeling the peace at all. He was ready for full-on war. In June, he hit the Hot 97 Summer Jam stage in New York and went straight at 50 and G-Unit. He had people dressed in a gorilla suit and rat costume wearing fake cheer unit shirts while his crew acted like they were beating them up. That same night, Game dropped a new catchphrase, G-U-No. He even threatened to knock out Tony Yayo and Lloyd Banks if he saw them. At this point, the beef wasn't just sneak disses. It was personal. Soon after, Game dropped You Know What It Is, Volume 3, with the brutal diss track 300 Bars and Runnin'. It was 14 minutes of straight fire aimed at 50, with lines like, "You sell records but a G you not," and "Tony Yayo, I bet 10 G's you flopped." 50 fired back by releasing the video for Piggy Bank. Even though the song was made before their fallout, the video was updated to Clown Game, showing him as a Mr. Potato Head wearing a headband that said "Steer," a word 50 made up to mock fake gangsters. 50 originally gave Ja Rule the Stir nickname, but now he felt like Game earned it too. That sparked a wild run of diss tracks from both sides. Game clapped back hard with his Stop Snitchin', Stop Lyin' mixtape, accusing 50 of snitching after getting shot 9 times. Then, in February 2006, 50 finally fired off his first official diss track aimed at Game. Not Rich, Still Lyin'. On the track, 50 mocked Game by rapping as if he was him. 50 calling me crazy, I might be. Just maybe I'm gangster, I'm crippin'. Damu too, I'm trippin'. Forget 50, forget Dre, forget NWA. I'm Hurricane Game. He even threw shots at Snoop. Snoop's stuff ain't all that. By that point, Game had officially left Aftermath and signed with Geffen Records, another label under Interscope. After the G.U.No movement blew up, Dre made moves behind the scenes to transfer Game off the label. Dr. Dre chose loyalty to G-Unit and pushed Game off Aftermath. Meanwhile, 50 kept the shots coming, even photoshopping Game in a thong for the cover of G-Unit Radio Part 1. Hate it or love it. That pic sparked rumors that Game was a stripper before rapping, and fans ran with it for years. But despite the trolling, Game actually tried to end the beef again. In a 2006 interview with Angie Martinez, he said he was down to talk things out with 50 like grown men. 50 never responded. Game gave him a 24-hour window on Power 106. Still nothing. That November, Game dropped his second album, Doctor's Advocate, and it was a major win. It hit #1 on the Billboard charts, moving over 350,000 copies first week. Game wanted to show he didn't need 50 or Dre, and he did just that. He even hinted in a few tracks that the beef was done. After that, things started to cool down. Game stopped throwing shots, and 50 stopped responding. G-Unit had its own issues too. 50 kicked Young Buck out live on Hot 97, just like he did with Game. By 2009, Game was ready to bury the beef for good. In a wild twist, Game told MTV News that Michael Jackson personally reached out to help end his beef with 50 Cent. It didn't work, but Game still apologized, owning up to his mistakes and even saying sorry to Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine. He wished he'd stayed with Aftermath and said working with 50 was like being part of a legendary duo like Method Man and Redman. Game was clearly ready to move on, maybe even team up again. But 50 wasn't having it. Just days later, Tony Yayo shut it all down, saying G-Unit wasn't accepting any of Game's apologies. Then came rumors that Game dissed G-Unit again on stage during a show in Australia. Not long after, 50 dropped his Before I Self-Destruct album, and on the track So Disrespectful, he went straight at Game. Come on, Game, you will never be my equal. I'm what you'll never be, in that tax bracket you'll never see. 50 clearly wasn't letting it go, but Game still kept trying. In 2010, he reached out on Twitter, asking for a long phone call to finally squash it. But once again, 50 stayed silent. In 2012, 50 dropped My Life with Eminem and Adam Levine and used it to diss Game, Young Buck, and Dre. He rapped, "I try to help dudes get on. They turned around and spit right in my face. So Game and Buck both can forget it." 50 later claimed those lyrics were written years earlier and that he didn't hate Game anymore. But Game wasn't buying it. He fired back with yet another diss track. Tony Yayo said Game always flip-flopped, dissing G-Unit 1 minute, then trying to make peace the next. And in 2013, Game proved that point again when he tried to reunite G-Unit. In a Power 106 interview, 50 said Game only used G-Unit for clout, that every time his career slowed down, he'd start drama to get attention. And when that didn't work anymore, he tried to rejoin the crew, but 50 shut it down. Game clapped back by dropping his OKA, Operation Kill Everything mixtape, and on the track Hollywood, he dissed again. Reunite with G-Unit? Forget 50 G-Unit. There was still tension, but by this point, both sides had mostly stopped throwing shots in interviews or music. 50 claimed he had no real issue with Game anymore, but he definitely didn't want G-Unit acting like they were all friends. In 2016, Game ran into Lloyd Banks in Dubai, and they snapped a photo together. That set 50 off. He reposted the pic with a long, heated caption calling Banks disloyal. He wrote, "What do you see when you look at this picture? I see confusion. I never ask for trouble, but I don't have a problem with it." Then he mentioned Lodi Mac, a G-Unit affiliate who was killed after Jimmy Henchman allegedly ordered the hit. 50 ended the post saying, Some things are better left alone. He later deleted it, but the message was clear. 50 felt betrayed seeing Banks with someone tied to his enemies. But in a surprising twist, that same year, 50 and Game were seen together at Ace of Diamonds in LA. Game even grabbed the mic and told the crowd, "I mess with 50. What happened was 12 years ago." For the first time, it looked like the beef might actually be over. "Drink your effin'. Ain't nobody on that old stuff but 50. That's what Game said. But clearly, 50 wasn't done holding grudges. His relationship with Lloyd Banks never recovered after that Dubai photo. In 2018, Lloyd officially left G-Unit, and 50 later confirmed they were no longer cool. While there were other issues, many believe the photo with Game sparked it all. Even though the beef ended in 2016, 50 and Game never truly became friends again. They don't talk much, and every now and then they still throw shade online. In 2022, when Dr. Dre hit the Super Bowl halftime stage with Snoop, Eminem, Kendrick, and 50, fans instantly noticed Game wasn't invited. The show was in Cali, and many thought it was the perfect chance for Game and 50 to finally reunite. Game later admitted in an interview that being left out hurt. He said the beef wasn't even that deep anymore, and that moment could have been iconic, but 50 didn't miss his shot to clown him. After winning an Emmy for the performance, he posted a pic of the trophy with the caption, "I just won my Emmy Award for the Super Bowl halftime show, LOL. That might have seemed like the end of it, but nope." Right after winning his Emmy, 50 posted a photo of Game with no caption, then quickly deleted it. Game fired right back, reposting a pic of 50 and writing, "No caption needed." Then he added hashtags like "Here's spicy dude," "what that eyebrow doing," and "gosh that way bye. Yotai blowin' in the wind lol. 50 clapped back by mocking Game for missing the Super Bowl show and only selling 18,000 copies of his latest album Drillmatic. Game wasn't letting that slide. During a show in Houston, he called 50 a punk on stage. 50 saw the clip and posted it with the caption, "Oh no, you're making me nervous. Now you know it's not safe around me when I'm nervous. LOL." So yeah, they've claimed to squash it, over and over, but somehow the beef always comes back. Between mixtapes, interviews, and freestyles, they've dropped over 100 diss tracks at each other. And while it's made for some iconic rap moments, you can't help but wonder what they could have created together if they stayed cool. If you enjoyed the story, like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who loves hip-hop beefs as much as we do.